Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Achieving Club Excellence webinar. We are delighted to have you join us today. My name is Christy Yablonsky. I am the Digital Marketing Specialist here at World Headquarters. I'm the past president and current Vice President of Education for the Toasting with Altitude Club. Thank you so much for joining us. The majority of the webinar will be engaged in a live discussion between members of the leadership panel. As we all learn and share stories, you may think of a question you'd like to ask. Please submit your questions using the Q&A pane, and towards the end of the session, we will bring many of those questions in to the conversation. With so many attendees, however, we may not be able to answer all the questions, but we will do our best to address as many as possible. Thank you so much for your patience and your understanding. While you may not be able to speak aloud, we encourage you to use the chat feature to talk with one another throughout the webinar. You are encouraged to share any tips or strategies you use in your club to achieve excellence. Thank you in advance for always remembering to be polite and courteous to your fellow attendees. Also, please keep in mind our team is focused on answering questions posted in the Q&A pane, not in the chat. This webinar is being recorded. You will receive an email in a few days with the link to the recording. With that being said, I would like to introduce you to our moderator for this webinar. Matt Kinsey is the Managing Director and Chief Information Security Officer for IT Fusion LLC. In his role, he oversees all aspects of the firm's operations and services small and medium-sized businesses in the South Florida area. Since joining Toastmasters in 2003, Kinsey has worked his way through all levels of Toastmasters leadership and currently serves as the organization's International President-Elect. Please join me in welcome International President-Elect Matt Kinsey.
Thank you, Christy. In times of transition, so much has changed in Toastmasters in the last 2 years. About what we do, how we do it, how has that impacted the club meetings that we provide to our members? Today, we're going to take a deep dive into the topic of club excellence, including subjects like member retention, adding new members, fellowship, and more. We're going to talk about strategies, discuss challenges we faced, and solutions that we've used. And hopefully, we want to inspire you to ensure your club meetings are truly valuable and memorable. Today, I am joined by 3 leaders from around the world. So let's meet them. Our first panelist is Gianna Abao, who comes to us from the 7,100 islands of the Philippines. She is a content creator who makes public speaking, writing, self-help, and motivational content for her, hear this number, almost 400,000 followers on TikTok. She's a graduate of Consular and Diplomatic Affairs with Latin honors from the De La Salle College of St. Benilde, and she joined the Metro Manila Toastmasters clubs in hopes of honing her skills in leadership and public speaking, and now serves as the Vice President of Public Relations. Glad you're here, Gianna. The second leader today is Daryl Brown, who comes to us from right near our world headquarters, the Mile High City, the Rocky Mountains, the spine of North America. He has nearly 25 years of experience in successful coaching, public affairs, leadership, and mentoring. He earned his master's degree in business administration. He's also a military veteran and retired law enforcement officer, and he's often consulted for his expertise in both fields. He was the District 6 governor and now serves as region advisor for Region 1. Daryl, glad you're here today. Our third panelist today is Becky Sisa Gomane. Becky Sisa is a professional speaker, serial entrepreneur, productivity, and sales trainer. He is passionate about bringing the best out of individuals and organizations, and he's coming to us today from the 12 countries of District 74 in Southern Africa, Madagascar, and Mauritius. He served on the board of directors for various nonprofits. His tips, tools, and strategies on how to increase productivity with limited resources can be found in his book, Elite Productivity, and he currently serves as the Division A Director in District 74. So let's get started. Everybody ready? I'm going to ask you three to go ahead and unmute yourselves because we're going to be kind of free-flowing here, just very casual conversation. The first question is, several years ago, a board committee tried to define a definition of club quality. Their definition is that clubs that encourage and celebrate member achievement, provide a supportive and fun environment, and offer a professionally organized meeting with variety demonstrate high quality. In those clubs, officers are trained in all aspects of club quality to ensure that members have access to a formal mentoring program, are provided evaluations that help them grow, and are motivated to achieve their goals. Well, that's a mouthful, but I'm going to ask each of you to start off with, what are your thoughts about that definition? Is anything missing from it? And we're going to start with Gianna. Gianna.
I totally agree with this statement because I think that we really need to help build the skills and the potential of people who are joining Toastmasters. And I think that I am actually one of the examples here. When I first joined Metro Manila Toastmasters Club, I was really shy. I remember joining the first meeting, and then people would be asking me what was my name, and I could barely even say my name. And that was, I think, almost last year. And then I was assigned to my first mentor, which is Ayin Bernos, who's also a content creator here in the Philippines. And before she was assigned to me, the Vice President for Education in Metro Manila Toastmasters Club at the time, who is now our president, asked me, what are my goals? What are my long-term goals here in Toastmasters? Why did I join in the first place? So when I joined, I told him that I really wanted to pursue content creation. So having to understand my needs, they were able to assign to me the perfect mentors that would be really helpful for my growth. And aside from that, I think that we also need to be more community focused. I think that would be something that I would be adding to the statement, because now that we're shifting online, people have a lot of options when they want to join a public speaking organization or when they want to join a Toastmasters club per se, because everything is online. You have so many competition. So you have to set yourself apart from other clubs. And I think that the best way to do that is if you're community focused and you're focusing on the needs of the people who are joining. And to do that, you have to carefully assess what they need by asking them, what are your long-term goals? I think that having to center the needs of the people who are joining the Toastmasters would be able to help them to really enjoy their experience and help them to just have their fullest potential maximized inside Toastmasters.
Awesome. Thank you, Gianna. We're going to go over to Becky now. Becky, what does that statement mean to you? Any thoughts you wanted to add to what Gianna has shared?
Yes, Matt. Thank you. I think that statement pretty much covers everything. It covers something on leadership. It covers mentorship. It covers fellowship. It covers fun, variety. However, what I would have loved, what would have been greater is when you say, instead of saying a formal mentorship program, how about we say an active mentorship program? Why do I say that? A lot of times clubs accept people, they promise them mentorship, they give them a mentor. They've got a mentor, they are happy they've got a mentor. And their mentor is only going to contact them maybe towards renewal season, or maybe never. I've had a lot of people reach out to me and say, hey, can you please mentor me? I'm like, but you are from another club. Don't you have a mentor? Didn't they allocate you a mentor? And then you say, yeah, I do have a mentor, but we hardly talk or we hardly speak. Now, why does that happen? It's because we think by offering a mentor and having that spreadsheet that says so-and-so is going to mentor so-and-so, we've done our job. I think we need to take it a step further and make it an active mentorship program. Now, what we have in some of our PE look after the mentorship program. How do we make sure that it is that mentorship program is active? There is constantly a health check on the mentorship program where the IPP, immediate past president, or the vice president education will reach out to the mentor or the mentee and say, how's the relationship going? When last did you talk? How far are you? Are you still moving ahead? Are you still growing? So for me, I would add that part. But other than that, that statement is perfect. It's got everything. It covers everything from fellowship, leadership, mentorship, and pretty much everything that we offer here in Toastmasters.
So Becky, what I hear you saying is having a mentoring program isn't enough. You've got to have accountability that the mentors are actually acting as mentors and that the members are receiving that mentorship.
That is exactly what I'm saying. That is exactly what I'm saying. Because yeah, like I'm saying, if there is no accountability in something, chances of it happening are very slim. Very, very slim. If there's accountability and I know I've got a mentor and someone is going to check up on me to say, hey, how's the mentorship program going? And I suppose that also helps in terms of you are able to see when the relationship between a mentor and a mentee is not working or a protege is not working. Then you can take action. You can bring someone else, maybe change the mentor, change the mentor and the mentee, change relationships, get someone else to do that. If we leave it to hope and say, okay, we've introduced them to each other, I'm sure something will happen. One of my mentors, Andrew Tsuro, who's our PQD here in Southern of Africa, says this a lot. Hope is not a strategy. And sometimes we hope things will work out. Oh, they've got a mentor, they've got a mentee, something will happen and nothing happens. So if we've got that accountability system, then we make sure that it happens. And if it's not working, we are able to take mitigation actions.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, I mean, Daryl, Gianna, and Becky covered a lot in there. Is there anything you want to add your reaction to that definition?
Oh, absolutely. I believe that what we have to offer not only covers what Gianna and Becky mentioned, but also a tremendous opportunity for us as far as our career goals, professional and otherwise. I believe that in this transition, during this time when we've moved from mostly in person to virtual, that there may be some who have struggled with the transition and the tremendous opportunity that's offered here for us as Toastmasters. We hear sometimes language that people say, well, they're burnt out in virtual meetings and things of that nature. And for us as Toastmasters, we're in a position where we can get people to change mindsets and also see this as an opportunity for us to use this avenue to enhance our communication, because you better believe that the virtual format is not going away. Most of us don't like boring meetings, work meetings or otherwise. So as Toastmasters, we have an opportunity to use our meetings as venues for fun where we can transfer that over into the work experience when we conduct meetings to make our meetings fun, make our meetings interesting, make our meetings impactful, where we're in a position that even a boring subject can be made interesting when it's communicated in a manner in which we as Toastmasters make a difference. And if we can position, regardless if we're meeting in person, hybrid, or virtually, that we make these experiences great, then we should see that as an opportunity here. I think that some of us hear this, I'm burnt out about virtual meetings, or I'm burnt out about this or that. As Toastmasters, we can use this experience, Club Excellence and otherwise, to change the game, change the mindset, change the culture, if we just fully embrace it and see it in that fashion. I just think that, for me, I don't want to waste my time in boring Toastmasters meetings. I want every single meeting to be fun. I joined Toastmasters years ago, back in 2004, because I needed to elevate my professional experience as a public speaker, particularly speaking to the media. And if I walked in the door and the club was boring, I would not have returned. But you know what? The entire experience, even with those of us who were new as Toastmasters, we experienced a good time because the leader, who had become my mentor at the time, she wanted to ensure that we had a fun experience learning, growing, and developing as leaders and as communicators. And if we come in with that experience, if our clubs come in with that mindset that we want people to have fun learning and enjoying the experience, they can also shape the experience of how their meetings are conducted professionally at work and any other experience where they're having gatherings, even with the most boring subject. It can be a great experience if we know how to communicate and conduct the meetings in a manner in which it makes a difference, and that people can walk away with something and say, you know what? This guy's a Toastmaster, and this message that he or she had delivered, normally that would be boring, but they had me fully engaged. I want a piece of their action and what they're doing. What is it about these Toastmasters that makes this kind of experience a great experience, and I don't dread meetings anymore? That's what we need to come in with. So when we're thinking about Club Excellence, and someone's visiting with specific goals like Deanna was talking about, and enhancing her experience, as well as what Becky was talking about with mentors, if we come in with that mindset that we want people to have the best experience possible in communication leadership development, you better believe they not only will join, but they will stay long-term. I have members of many of my clubs who have been with the club, not for a few months, few weeks to test the waters. They've been in our club for years. And the reason why is because we set the standard. We have an experience and a culture that when they come, they leave with something, and it's an enjoyable experience. That's what we got to bring back into Toastmasters and maintain it for the long term. And that's how we make an impact.
Awesome, Daryl. So now we're going to go into some questions that are directed towards one of you. And I've selected this based on my limited observations of some of you. Daryl, I've known a little bit longer, but this one's going to go to Becky. So Becky, what are the elements, what makes for a quality club meeting? And has this changed over the past 2 years? And if so, how has that changed?
Wow, that's a great question. I think what I can say is the basics haven't changed. The basics of how many people attend your club event. I love to call them event because we attend, as Daryl said, we attend boring meetings throughout the day. And when we come to a Toastmasters, we want to call it an event. The basics haven't changed in terms of we want to have at least 20 people attend the event. And 20 people may mean the members of the club, the visitors who are from other clubs, also guests who don't know anything about Toastmasters or who have been invited? Number two, how many speeches are you going to have? 3 to 6 speeches or no, on pathways? You are way on your way to having a great event. Obviously, variety, bring in, have a theme to your event, have table topics and have someone that is there, have exciting table topics. So the basics are still there. But what has changed is how do you incorporate it in your event in a virtual setting? For instance, in our club, what we've done is we log into the event at least 15 to 20 minutes before the event starts, and we'll put up a banner of the event so that when people log in, they know they're in the right event. And number two, we'll play some music to set the atmosphere. Now, depending from club to as some of the clubs have adopted this, but depending from club to club, you might be careful on how you choose your music. If your club is a sort of a more professional club, you'd want to play that kind of music. But if your club is a vibey club, we've got a club that meets on a Saturday, good to great speakers. They meet on a Saturday afternoon. They've done their shopping, they've done their ironing, cleaning, or everything. So they just want to have fun. So between 4 and 6, they play lively music, but that is a lively club. So they are that type of a club. So you'd love to choose the right type of music to create the atmosphere, because when we used to meet in person, it was easy to create the atmosphere because you would go to a person, shake their hand, get to know them. But now, how do you do it in an online setting? Those are some of the things that we do. And what we will do, we will have someone that will greet people as they log in. Hey, so-and-so, how are you? Hey, Gianna, how are you? Where do you come from? Wow, how did you hear about us? And then it creates that right atmosphere. So those are some of the things that can be added. Other than that, the basics are still the same. It hasn't changed much.
Yeah, thank you, Becky. Every meeting has a different time frame. Lunch meetings that meet for 1 hour, we can only get 3 speakers in. Sometimes we can only get 2 speakers in. But you need to know your club and make sure that people get an opportunity. But I like what you say, that the majority of what we're doing has not changed.
Mm-hmm.
We're speaking in a different platform, and it's a new skill that we need to learn. But Deanna, and I saw some comments in the chat about this, people love your background. And that's why I chose this one. How has fellowship within your club changed since the beginning of the pandemic? And I mean, it's clear from that photo that you got a group of people that get along with each other and like each other. But so how has that changed, and what has your club done to help members feel connected to you, even if you're not meeting in person?
To be honest, Matt, I am actually a new Toastmaster. I've joined Toastmasters last March, so I haven't experienced it in a live setup. But I was club hopping, and I think for quite some time, I think I tried club hopping when I was around 19. I'm 23 now, and when I joined Toastmasters, I was 22 years old. And then what I would usually notice is that when you're in a live setup, right? When someone's not a great speaker, or when someone's quite boring, when they talk like nonchalantly, or when they are shy, especially, you get to listen to them when it's a live meeting. But when it's virtual and someone is not as entertaining or enthusiastic when they speak, most of us have an attention span for a goldfish. So we don't wanna listen to it. You can just use your phone, turn off your camera, and not listen to them anymore. There are so many distractions at home, and nobody's gonna know. That's one of the key difference here in the virtual setup. So what we usually do is that we try to engage our members, and especially our guests when they enter, through incentivizing them. For example, during our virtual meetings, we have games like talk shows or reality shows inspired games during our club meetings. And then what we do there is we incentivize them with cash prizes, for example, so that they can join in between meetings. And then instead of having like a 5 minute to 10 minute break, because that's what we usually do for Toastmasters, right? We usually have like a 5 to 10 minute break. What we have instead is a game where we could ask our guests to talk about themselves or to join and participate in Toastmasters so that they'd have a feel of how it's like to be a Toastmaster. Because I think that in order to commercialize Toastmasters, we really need to engage people. We also have this thing called socialization event at night, right after a meeting. And this actually helped us to build this type of relationship. We have a socialization right after our meeting where we get to invite people from other clubs as well. And this helps us to bridge connections with other clubs and as well as help us to fulfill roles when we're lacking manpower in our club. We could just ask from other members from other clubs if they would like to be a role taker for the night because we're lacking of role takers. So that's what we usually do. We usually have socialization events and we really try to incorporate members and guests through fun and engaging games, because now we just really want to try to enjoy, because we don't want an added work, and because like what Daryl said, we usually experience burnout, and that's the least thing that we want guests and members to experience during a meeting.
Yeah, it's a conversation that is happening in corporations, it's happening in organizations, it's even happening in families because people aren't getting together. You need to take extra effort to make sure that people feel connected. And if somebody's not at a meeting, one of the best things I've ever found, if somebody misses 2 meetings in a row, someone in the club pick up the phone and call them and go, Daryl, we've missed you the last couple of weeks. Are you okay? And that just tells Daryl that we love him and we miss him and we wish he'd been there. And sometimes it's really simple things to do that, but we don't have the after the meeting or the meeting in the parking lot after the Toastmasters meeting, because we finished the virtual meeting and we're done. So thank you. Those are great tips for helping members feel connected to their club. But
just to get in them, Matt.
Go ahead, Becky.
Yeah, I like what you said, because many a times we think by sending an email or by sending a text, we've done, we've connected to people, because we've got a WhatsApp group which makes things much simpler. So when we throw something in the group, we think it's worked. Or if you're using Telegram, maybe throw something in the Telegram group, you think you've done it. What happened to the old way of picking up a call and say, hey, we haven't seen you last month. We haven't seen you in 2 meetings or events. Where are you? That will make people feel like, oh, I belong here. These people actually notice even when I'm not here. It's very important. Now, we do this actively in some of our clubs, that we would talk to the executive even before the renewal season, because the renewal season, obviously we all get desperate and we start picking up the call. But before renewal season, just be proactive and reach out to people. Now in South Africa, around January, there is a bit of a lull because we go to Christmas season. Some clubs close, and first, second week of January, it's quiet. This is where we encourage our executives, our ExCo committee, to be proactive, reach out to people and say, hey, how was your Christmas? What are your goals for this new year? What are you up to? We're looking forward to seeing you in our next club meeting, to create that atmosphere that, look, though we are still online, we still care and love you.
Absolutely. Daryl, one of the big challenges the organization has faced over the last 2 years is new member growth. New member growth has slowed tremendously since the beginning of the pandemic. So what have you seen done in clubs to provide a spark to membership building efforts?
I'd say one of the biggest things for us as far as new member growth is taking advantage or capitalizing upon the virtual format and how potential Toastmasters can capitalize this, particularly in their professional lives, and use this as an avenue to help them to elevate their game, because nowadays we're called upon to lead meetings at work. We're called upon to facilitate. We're called upon to sometimes give what we know as table topics as that last minute presentation at work. And it's important for us, especially in this day and age where it may be a long time before we get back to in-person again. And even if we do, there'll be some degree of hybrid format, because we've had the same thing when we were having corporate calls where there were some on speaker and there were some in person. But imagine us as, whether we're a new member, we're looking to enhance our communication goals. Our new members come for a specific purpose. Or if we have an opportunity to invite someone to be a part of our club, maybe a coworker, someone who's struggling as far as they hate to do meetings, that's an opportunity for us to establish those invites. That's an opportunity for us to help potential guests to enhance their communication skills. And they don't have to get in a car anymore. There's more of a benefit to this, where people can actually make the time. If we want to draw new members, we have to reinvent our strategy and not use the traditional approach of in-person on how we're bringing in new members that I believe that we're doing right now. We're still using the same old approach that we used to do, and not customizing it or enhancing it in a manner in which that the virtual format has the same appeal that we used to have with the in-person. And we have to change that part if we want to draw new members. We can't use what we've always been doing and expect a different result.
Yeah, so Jan, I'll get to you in just a second. So Daryl, I just really think about this in terms of like my business. If I were doing for IT management and IT security what I was doing 2 years ago, I'd be out of business, because the landscape has changed so much and the threats have changed so much. And I could complain about that. I can fight it, or I can respond to it. And what I'm hearing you saying is we have to respond to this changing environment, because the reality is online's not going away. We're not going to go back to 99% of our club meetings being in person. We're going to have a lot of in-person meetings. We're going to have a lot of hybrid meetings. We're going to have a lot of online meetings. We need to be, organizationally, we need to be successful in all three. So those are some great strategies. Gianna, you're a club officer, and guess what's coming up in just a few weeks, right? Renewals. And renewals are one of perhaps a tense time for club officers. So what is your team of officers doing right now to make sure that the maximum number of people in your club renew and that they're getting the Toastmasters promise met to them?
Oh, is it okay if I just add something?
Sure.
What Daryl said?
Absolutely.
Because what you've mentioned earlier, right? You and Daryl, is that we're changing now into a different landscape and we need to adapt. We can't reject it. We have to really adapt to it. And one of the things that I think helped Metro Manila Toastmasters Club, because now we have around 43 members, and on average, or 44 members rather, and on average, on a monthly basis, we have around 37 to 60 plus guests. So that's really something that we're working on. And what really helped us is through search engine optimization, and of course, through leveraging social media. I think that's one of our core strengths as a club that helped us to grow our membership. And what really helped us to do that is through planning and strategizing our content. How did we do that? We really try to make valuable content for people who are following us on social media. Now we have around 6,000 followers or likes on Facebook, around that number. And what really helps us is that we try to create content about public speaking, about leadership, anything that's crucial or beneficial for people who are aspiring to be a Toastmaster, or people who are looking to help them, for people who are looking for organizations that could help them grow. And in terms of renewals, what really helped us is that we try to strengthen our mentorship program. So for example, I have a mentor, Toastmaster Andanga. I have two mentors, Toastmaster Rosane and Toastmaster Anne. So what helps us is that we try to be as active as we can be. So we try to have at least a weekly or a monthly meeting for a mentorship, because you would want to be engaged in Toastmasters if you could really see yourself growing or developing inside the club. So we really try to ramp on how to improve our mentorship or how to be more active within it. Like, what initiatives could we do? Or even inside the club, we also try to engage other members. For example, for PR, for membership, or for education. As a VP for PR, I actually have club members who are helping me with the PR materials of the club. And for the membership team, they also have their own members who are helping them with anything that's related to the orientation of new people who are coming into our club. So having to increase the engagement of the members, not just in terms of during the meeting, but the back end preparation for all of our meetings, really helps them to get hooked inside the club. So that really helps us with renewals and with club retention.
So what I hear you saying, and it's so close related to membership building. The way I've looked at this in the past is that people join Toastmasters, really they've got two major questions on their mind. The first question is, can Toastmasters help me with my perceived need? Okay, if you're trying to lose weight, there are other organizations that do that. That's not what Toastmasters is for. We're trying to help you develop your communication leadership skills. And if you have a perceived need there, we can help with that. But the second question, which is perhaps more important, is, do I fit in with this group of people that are meeting at this location? And do I feel welcome? Do I feel a part of that? And so what I'm hearing you say is that when they don't feel a part, when they don't feel like they're engaged, that's when they walk away.
Yes, I think now that we're in the virtual setup, there's, like what I've mentioned earlier, you really have to be wary of the competition there is, not just within the clubs of Toastmasters, but other public speaking organizations as well. So when you get to engage people to really be active in the club, and how can they be a part of a mission of the club? How can they help other people as well? Because some people really want to be a part of a story, a mission. And when you can help them to feel that way inside the club, when you help them to feel engaged, they would want to stay in the club by their own decision.
I love what you're saying, because I think sometimes, those of us who have some more years under our belt than you do, Gianna, we forget what it's like to be in our 20s, and we forget the hopes and the aspirations. And I saw people my father's age wait 15, 20 years to get involved, but they would stick around. And what the research says is your age group won't do that. If we don't get you engaged, you're going to walk away and find somebody else who will get you involved. So we really need to make sure our members get involved, and so that they feel like they're not just getting education opportunities, but they're an integral part of the organization. Is that a good way to sum that up?
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Well, we're coming close. And so I'm going to get to one more question before we do our wrap-up question to everyone. This is going to go to Becky. How do you make guests feel welcome when attending online or hybrid meetings? I mean, it's really easy in a face-to-face meeting. You walk over, you shake their hand or fist bump now, and you can walk around and you can introduce them to other people. But I mean, I've gone to a Toastmasters meeting as a guest and everyone ignored me, because they were so involved chatting with each other. So what are some tips to make guests feel welcome so that they go, yes, I fit in with this group of people?
That's a beautiful one, man. First and foremost, the meeting doesn't start on the day of the meeting, on the time the meeting starts. You need to think strategically about this. So what we do, we want to make sure that by the time they come to the event or the meeting, they are coming to someone. Now, when I invite you to a party, you are going to come to a party because of me, because I will be there. You are not coming to the party, you are coming to Becky. That's what usually happens. Because if I invite you to a party and there's nobody you know there, I just meet you on the road and come to the party, you won't come, right? So this is how we do it. We make sure that the event is marketed or advertised on time, and we've got a registration link. Now, when they are registered, you've got their numbers, you've got their email address. Someone will pick up the call and say, hey, we are looking forward to seeing you. So what got you attracted to us? And can you use Zoom? Do we need to take you through a Zoom tutorial a bit? And if they can use Zoom, they're excited about now they attach the name to the event. They're not just coming to President Club, they are coming to Becky. They're looking forward to it. And as soon as they come in, that person will say, hey, I see you, Gianna, welcome. We spoke during the day. Now there is a friendship already. It's not like, okay, now we are in a meeting that we're gonna wait for the doors to open. No, it's a relaxed setting. They're already talking to Becky. Now I've seen other clubs stretch this further. At the end of the event, you open up breakout rooms on Zoom. We've got what we call breakout room, and you go meet up with the guests in the breakout room, get to chat to them, get to talk to them. And by the way, this would be a great time to say, hey, would you be ready to get started with us? Because sometimes we let them go and say, bye-bye.
So Becky, I just share with you real quickly. I remember visiting a club when I was international director, and there was a gentleman who was visiting the club for the 10th straight week.
Wow.
And I asked him why he hadn't joined yet. And he said no one had given him an application or invited him to join. And his personality was not one that he would go and put himself forward to do that. No one asked. So I'm glad you brought up, invite them to join us.
I'm going to stand up for this one, Matt, because
This
is my passion. This is like my big passion. I really love this subject. Remember, if you don't ask for a sale, you will never get it. If you don't ask people to get started, they will never come in. It's not like we are selling some secret society kind of a thing, or we're selling something that people don't like. When people come to a Toastmasters club, they've either heard about it somewhere and they've got a need. But until someone says, let's get you started, they will never some of them will never get started. You'll get those people that say, hey, how do I join? And then they start that conversation. Some people won't start that conversation until you start it. Some people think, okay, but actually this has happened. There was someone that visited a club several months and they thought they are already part of the club. When I spoke to them, they thought, no, I've already joined, I'm part of this club. Until I asked questions, then I realized, no, they don't know. They think just coming to visit every time they're part of the club.
It looks like we may have lost Becky for a moment, but I love what he's saying, and I
Someone
really
needs to say, let's get you started. Chances of people getting started are slim.
Yeah, Becky, I really love what you're saying there, and I really hope that our members who are on the call today, we've got almost 800 people on this session today, who that is so important. You know, part of the reason that the three of you were selected is based on the roles you hold in the organization right now. So what I want to do is I want to get a real good takeaway. And what I want is your advice to somebody in your position to help with club quality. So Gianna, as a club officer, what would you recommend in the next couple of weeks that club officers do to make sure they're having a quality club meeting?
I think that one of the key strengths of Metro Manila Toastmasters Club is we really try to engage our members. Like, we just don't let the club leaders to lead. We also ask for the help of other members so that they can lead in their own way as well. So for example, when we hold our meetings, we actually consult with them. Is there something that you would like to add? Do you have any other suggestions? Do you have like something that you think we need to recalibrate with, so that we could have a better understanding what are the needs of the people who are with our club, and as well as whenever we try to think of strategies or club meeting, it's always about them, not the club itself. So having to focus on them and just releasing the idea that, oh, people should join Metro Manila Toastmasters Club or they should join Toastmasters in general, you try to make it about them. You try to commercialize it by selling them the features and the benefits of the club, and not just because I think that for most Toastmasters Club in the Philippines, because what I've mentioned earlier, I was actually jumping through like 4 clubs before I joined Metro Manila Toastmasters Club. So what I've noticed is that they usually sell through public speaking. But for some clubs, they actually sell it through, if you join us, we'll be helping you to build your leadership skill and your public speaking skill, and as well as help you in helping other people by mentoring them. So don't just sell the club with just public speaking. Sell them a story. Like, show them something more than that.
Gina, I love that story. You know, what's the sales say? Story, sell, facts, tell. Okay.
Exactly.
You know, you've got to share stories, and your story is compelling, and Daryl's story is compelling, and Becky's story is compelling. And some people think my story is compelling, you know, and your story doesn't speak to everybody. You know, so everyone's story is important, and we need to share that so people recognize themselves. Due to time, we're only going to have about 1 minute each on this question for you. So, Becky, as a division director, what is your advice to fellow division directors and area directors that they can do in the next 30 days to help improve the club quality of the clubs they're working with?
That's a great one. I would say visit other clubs, visit other areas. There are some tips that you can get from other areas and from other clubs. Get to see what they do, and then you can come and incorporate that in some of your clubs. Because especially some of the struggling clubs, they've been a struggling club somewhere and they've recovered. Go find out what they did. How did they recover? And then come and talk to those clubs that are struggling and say, hey, there's a club that did this and it worked out. We've got a club that is a corporate club. Now, I know little about corporate clubs. And I heard there was another club just in Zimbabwe. We are in South Africa that is doing great. I reached out to some of the people that know that club and asked, what are they doing? Now, we've spoken to the president of the struggling club to say, hey, that corporate club, this is what they're doing. How about you incorporate it here? And they are happy to do that. And now we can start working on that club to grow. So go visit other clubs, go visit other areas, go visit other divisions, get to find out what they're doing.
All right, Daryl.
Just to add to
you work with district trios. So what is your advice to district trio members to support their area and division directors, the club officers, in improving the quality of club meetings?
Get back to the basics. Use the best means of communication, because we are a communication and leadership development organization. Don't use a one-size-fits-all approach, but capitalize on the business that we're about, the most effective way to communicate to our leaders. And in turn, what is the best way to communicate to our members? Not everyone responds to email. Most people, there's some who are inundated by emails. So if the phone works, go with the phone. If a text works, go with the text, but find out the best way to reach out and connect with people and use that as an avenue of communication so that we are showing in our actions that we are about the best means of communicating and connecting with our people. And that's how our members are going to thrive in this environment, when we're showing that we're developing our skills in all avenues on how we communicate, and in turn, we become the best leaders we can be. And that's what I want our district, division, area leaders, and club officers to communicate one to another. But find that best way, use it, and enable everyone to be able to connect, and we'll meet our goals together.
Wow, I'm just gonna say, before we get into the Q&A, I know Christy's gonna be coming on with some questions that have been popping up during the meeting, but the three of you were well chosen. And you represent the best of what Toastmasters can do in people's lives. So thank you. It's been a real pleasure working with you. We're going to have some question and answers before we wrap up. So everyone, please join me in welcoming Christy back for our Q&A session.
Wow, everyone, thank you so much, like Matt said, for sharing your insights and your inspirational stories. So amazing to hear. We are going to go ahead and switch over to our question and answer part of our program. Due to time, I ask that the panelists answer each question within a minute. We've received so many amazing questions, so we do apologize that we can't get into every question, but let's go ahead and start. Matt, the first question is for you. Scott wants to know, how does one help members see the value of mentoring and leadership?
There's no teacher like experience, and you got to get them to experience it. And when I invite visitors to Toastmasters, I kind of undersell it. I'm like, I don't know if it's for you. I think it is, it might be, but it's worth you checking it out. And so that's what I would tell people: check out mentoring and see what it can do for your life. Because I can tell you about my mentors and everything, that's the amazing job they've done for me, and Gianna can, and Daryl can, Christy can professionally. But until you've experienced it, it's really hard to understand the value.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, Gianna, the next question is going to be for you. Mike would like to know, what kind of special events does your club use to help retain retention with the members?
So in terms of membership retention, what we really do is we try to incorporate our members with our planning and strategies. So for membership, for PR, for education, we all have members who are a part of our team to help us out. And having to be able to contribute to the club helps them to be really engaged and to be connected, not just with the club leaders, but with the club itself.
Fantastic, thank you. Okay, Daryl, Ruth says you made a great point about changing club culture. What do you recommend for a club that is resistant to change?
Thank you so much for that question. One of the things that we need to think about when it comes to the natural resistance of change is, first and foremost, acknowledge that there's going to be resistance to change, and because of fear and a number of other factors. The more we inform our members of what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how we're going to do it, and get them involved in the process of that change and helping them to become change agents, is how we're going to get those who are resistant to change to be able to make the transition. We can't just assume that they're doing it to be rebellious. There's a number of reasons why people resist change, but the more we inform and empower them to be involved in the process, that's what's going to make the difference and enable them to embrace change rather than resist it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Daryl. Okay, Becky, we talked a lot about mentorship on this call. How do we decide who's qualified to be a mentor? Has the mentor been trained with the Toastmasters mentorship program? Any tips you could include?
The best mentors, through what I've seen, the best mentors are those people that have gone through the mentorship program, which is on Pathways. I think when you finish level 3, it will suggest it to you. And if you are that person that wants to grow as an influencer or want to learn how to mentor, I would recommend that you take that pathway. It's a simple pathway, but it's full of value. So the best mentors are those people that have finished level 3 and have done that mentorship program.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm going to bring another question back to Matt. Stephen would like to know, they have a corporate company club, but they wish it was better supported by the company. Do you have any advice on how a company can help support a club?
So the first club I joined was a corporate club. And the most visitors we ever had at that club meeting was the week after the new Vice President of Human Resources put out a sample goal sheet. And one of the sample goals was to join Toastmasters and complete 10 speeches. And we had 50 visitors at our next meeting. So getting engaged with your executives is important. And I really encourage you to have an internal liaison between the company and the club. And best practice is this is not someone who's going to change regularly, so that they know that that communication line is there. So it's not the role of one officer, it's the role of a person who will be there for a while. And invite them to come and speak at your club. Give them updates on what is going on, whether the company's paying for it or not. Get them involved. You want to get a bunch of IT people to show up at a Toastmasters meeting? Invite your chief information officer to give a presentation on communication skills in IT. Guess what? Everybody who reports to him or her is going to show up at the meeting. So get them involved and invite them to be part of the experience rather than just this group of people that meets in a room over here.
Great, thank you, Matt. Gianna, this one is for you. What social media platform has your club seen the most success on?
We usually use TikTok and Facebook. So for TikTok, I think I get around 1 million views in one of my impromptu speeches. I just repost my impromptu speeches. And for Facebook, we actually have around 380,000 unique visitors ever since I started as the VP for PR. And we also get an average of 16 to 300,000 unique visitors, or rather 100,000 unique visitors per month. It depends on what content we produce, and it depends on the performance of the content.
Wonderful, thank you so much. Okay, Daryl, Karen would like to know how they can keep club officers engaged if they seem disinterested in their role.
One of the best strategies thank you for that question. One of the best strategies to keep officers engaged is continual communication first and foremost. Asking them what their personal and professional goals are within the club and what they would like to do in the next 3 months, the next 6 months, and so forth. If those questions aren't being asked, then there's this assumption that maybe that they're doing something, but the more that we can get them involved and connected on how they can best meet their own personal needs and the needs of the club it creates an empowering atmosphere for the club officers to get more involved. They recognize the need for the club and their leadership, as well as the needs of the members. And that's fulfilling when we're helping someone else. And they express that or express thanks for that. It makes all the difference in the world. And we need to help our club officers to understand how important their role is, whether they are the president or the sergeant at arms, that their role is valuable to the success of the club. And when that message is brought about, it makes all the difference in the world.
Great, thank you. Okay, due to time, Becky, this will be our last question, and if you can kind of keep it in that 30 to 60 second window. What media sources or actions do you use to bring in new members?
Can you please repeat that question, Christy?
Yes. Do you use any media sources or actions to help you bring in new members to clubs?
Oh, yes. Yeah, we use a lot of social media. When I say social media, that's Facebook, we use Twitter, we use Instagram, including LinkedIn. And obviously you would have to put in a different kind of material for each different platform. But those are the platforms we use. And WhatsApp works great as well. WhatsApp statuses, that it works great as well. So those are some of the medias that we use.
Wonderful. Thank you so much to everybody, Matt, Gianna, Daryl, and Becky, for spending this time with us today. We truly appreciate your wisdom, inspiration, and advice. We will be sending the recording link of today's session to everyone who registered as soon as we can. Please share with fellow Toastmasters and leaders that may benefit from what we discussed today. Once again, thank you all for joining us, and we hope you've learned at least one thing that you can take back to your club to provide excellent meetings to your members. Thank you guys so much. Have a great day or evening.